Hey. Okay. Okay, we left off yesterday. It's interesting. Where a machlokes or a meir in the Chachomim, that if you have a child, this is the way Rashi learned the Gemara, you have a child holding a piece of dough, and the child himself is next to a larger piece of dough. And we say that the majority of children, the way Rashi learns, are metapchin. And Rashi, what is the meaning of metapchin? Because when they play in unclean locations which have rodents and have nevela. So Rov tells me the child is tummy. So, but there's the majority of children play in these areas, so the majority of children are contaminated, but there's a minority that are not contaminated. The dough itself, he took the dough, the dough he has in his hands, we say with definiteness he took it from the larger piece. So if he's tamei, the dough is tamei. But there's a chance he may not be tamei. Why? Because there's a minority of children who don't play in these unclean locations. So I have a suffix. Did the child contaminate the dough? Did he not contaminate the dough? I have a rove. Rove says he's tummy, therefore he contaminated the dough. The dough itself has a chazokah. Until the whole question came, did he touch the dough or did he not touch the dough? The dough had a presumptive state that it was torn. Now the question is, did that change? So Rameir says he's matar the dough. Why? Because I have a miyut. I have a minority of children who are not contaminated because they don't engage in this type of play. And I have a chazokah, the dough has a presumed status that it's torn. So we say smoch miyut lechazokah. We take the minority and we associate it with the chazokah, and that actually weakens the rove. And because the rove is weakened, therefore the dough retains its pure state. The Chacham, they disagree. They say ruba v'chazokah ruba. If you have rove pitted against the chazokah, rove supersedes the chazokah. If the child rove determined that the child's contaminated, the dough is contaminated. So the Gemara says, well, what's the basis for machlokas? So the Gemara says, my time in the Rameir, rove tinokos metapchin umiyot ein metapchin. Majority of children, the way Rashi learns, they engage with areas of tumah, which is the trash. A minority don't. The isum cheskes taro medis, and the dough itself has a cheskes taro, has a presumed state that it's pure, it's not tummy. Smoch miyut lechazokah Yisrael ruba. So if you associate the minority with the chazokah, it weakens the rove. Therefore, the dough retains its state. Because I have a suffix. Is it? So it retains its state. Rabbanan miyutad command the lesser dough. The Chachomim, they use the terminology, when you have rove, it's as if the miyut doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So what do I have? I have the rove and I have the chazokah. Ruba v'chazokah ruba. The miyut is not reckoned with whatsoever. We'll talk about this. So therefore, ruba v'chazokah ruba adif. That's the chos. Therefore, it's definitely tomei. So if the child touched the dough, and rove ruled that the child was tomei, so the dough is tomei. That's where Rashi learns. That's the machlokes remain the chachamim. So yesterday we discussed, we mentioned the mitzvahs chinuch. Mitzvahs chinuch asked the question. Remember we mentioned Tosus in Bavlitzia, by the case where you count towards Meiser, and one of the 10 jumps back among the multitudes of sheep or animals. So the Mishnah says you cannot tithe any of the flock any longer. So Tosa says, well, one who say bittul barov. So Tosa says it's rabbinical. On the Torah level, we do say bittul barov. Rabbinically, we don't. That's Tosa's. But the Rosh mentioned the Rosh. The Rosh says, of course, the Torah says asiri vadev lo asiri sofek. It has to be. It's not enough to have a halachic tenth. It has to be a definite tenth. Factually, it has to be. We know factually it's the tenth. And since factually you don't know it's the tenth, therefore Rove is not going to help you on this one. That's what the Rosh answered. So the question was, So how do you ever take Meiser Behema? Because the Gemara says in Bechoros that if an animal's a treifa, it's not qualified to be counted or be the Meiser, either one. So if that's the case, so I have to resort to Rov. So if I have to resort to Rov, how do you have Meiser? Because factually, you have to know factually that it's qualified to be Meiser, factually, not based on halacha. So how do I know? That was the question Mitzvah Chinuch asked. So I'm just reviewing. I'm reviewing for everybody. So we answered there's a difference between, because the Gemara uses there's a difference between Ruba the Isakam and Ruba the Lesser Kamon. The Gemara says, Chachomim say, Miuta command the lesser. Okay? That's called Ruba the Lesser Kamon. The Miut, the minority, it's like it doesn't exist. Meaning, when you have the one that jumps back, or you have the non-kosher mixed with the kosher, the problem exists in our presence. So because there's a question, maybe I'm engaging in the one that already was counted. That's Ruba the Isakam. That's pure. That's halachic. That's not a definite. Torah says you have a right to rely on it. But where there's not even a reason to consider there's a problem, like Rov Behemoth Cheiros. The majority of animals are not treifa. There's no reason for me even to consider this any of the animals that I have are defective. That's definite, even though it's halacha. But that is considered the equivalent of definite. Therefore, that's every case of what? Of Meiser. Why is the animal kosher? Because the majority of animals are not defective. What am I permitted to drink milk of an animal? Rov Behemoth Cheiros. The majority of animals are kosher animals. That's why the milk that's coming from this animal is not coming from an animal that's a trait. Okay? Go ahead. What do you want to say? Right, we'll see. We'll discuss it. This is all preparation to understand the Gemara. Okay? Right now we're talking about the mitzvah. Now the mitzvah is another answer, which I didn't mention yesterday. The other answer is here the Gemara says that if a person, a husband, a man and a woman with two children come to a community, and the interaction is the interaction of a husband, wife, and children, and eventually they mature and the parent and these two individuals have relations with the children, they're subject to the death penalty. Because based on presumption, what we see, we establish them as parents and the children as their children because of the nature of the relationship. Therefore, it's considered incest. The mother had relations with her son and the father had relations with daughter. Therefore, it's punishment by skila and sreifa. No, chazaka. Chazaka, it's presumption.
It's presumption that most people live in a situation.
It's not rov. No, it's presumption. It's presumption. It's not rov. It's presumption.
Presumption means that it could be something else.
Not presumption.
Why can't we say that that's
rov is something else. Rov is this.
Most people live in
it is. It's true. It touches, but it's presumptive. It's presumptive. We presume it's that. There's no reason to presume differently. Well, we say that's Horgan al Chazok. That's what we're saying. Presumptive is sufficient. That's what we're saying. Nobody argues this.
We also say that Rov is more powerful.
It's a different type of Chazok. That Chazok is a status quo Chazok. Ruba Chazok, Ruba Odif is something that had a presumed status. Factually, it was Torah. The dough was Torah. Now the question is, did it become Tomei? Rov tells me it became Tomei. So even though it had a presumed status as Torah, if Rov is contrary to that, it overpowers the Chazaka, and I see the dough as being Tomei. Right? It's a different type of Chazaka. Okay? So he gives another answer. The answer is like this, that the case, which is not simple, let's say you have an animal and you drank its milk. And now I want to take that animal and I want to take Meiser from that herd. So because you were drinking milk until now from those animals, so Rov already ruled the animals are kosher. See, if the animals Rov never actually was put into effect, I never applied the principle of Rov. Let's say sheep. Sheep, let's say male sheep. There's no milk. It's only sharing. Whether the animal's treifa or not treifa, you can share the sheep. No, there was no basis to establish the issue of is it treifa or not. Never really came up. It wasn't relevant to anything. But let's say it had relevance. Am I permitted to drink its milk? So Rove already ruled this animal is a kosher animal, therefore I'm permitted to drink its milk. So as a result of that, it already established itself as a kosher animal. That's chazokah. That's chazokah. You understand? If it never established itself, then Rove. So over there, what happened? An animal jumped into the herd or into the flock. So now I have the question. Rove is not fact. But over here, since Rove already established it as kosher, and as a result of that, I was permitted to drink its milk. As a result of that, it's a chazokah, and once it's a chazokah, I'm permitted what? There's no reason to suspect it's a treifah. There's no reason to suspect it's a treifah, because chazokah already established it as a kosher animal. No, it doesn't make a difference, but it's established. So which means if the animal itself wasn't relevant to anything, there was never a kashrus issue. Could I share its fleece? There's no reason. Kosher, not kosher. Treifah, not kosher. So Rove doesn't come into play. Let's say it came into play because am I permitted to drink its milk? And Rove ruled you're permitted to drink its milk. So how did I see this animal until it came to the question of taking meiser? I saw it as a kosher animal because Rove ruled it's a kosher animal. As a result of that, even the Rosh agrees that because it's been established that's chazokah, therefore you're permitted, therefore it's more than halacha, it's a fact. It's the equivalent of what factually the animal is a kosher animal.
And when it jumps back into the herd, what happens?
No, that's Rove, that's halacha. Halacha, Torah says it has to be factually the 10th. It's factually not the 10th. It's based on Rove. But over here, Rove establishes you're permitted to drink, that becomes factual. Like the parents, they're factual. Right? Based on presumption. Because we saw them contingently acting in a context of the way parents interact with children. And a husband interacts with a wife. Okay? That's the second answer. Okay? It's not so simple. The second answer. One second. This is the second answer to the mitzvah. Now, there's a Tosis, which we had, Chulin, when we studied Chulin a number of years ago. The Gemara has a whole discussion over there. How do I know chazokah? How do I know Rove? Cites various things. Second. Yep. So then the Gemara says, how do we know Rove? So it says you learn Chazokah and it speaks Rove. It says we learn from Poraduma. Poraduma. So Tosis asks, how do we know Rove from Poraduma? We say the Poraduma may be a treifah. The answer is because Rove and not treifah. Tomorrow one says because Rove and not treifah. Otherwise, how do you bring the Poraduma? It may be a treifah. It's a treifah. It's not qualified to be a Poraduma, right? So Tosis asks, Toma came to Pora Bashtesham. Now, how old is a Poraduma? 2 years old. It has to be 2 years old. So that means it lived the first year. So if it lived 1 year already, so already we establish it as a what? As a viable animal. So therefore, we'll see. If you're of the opinion that a treifa does not live more than a year, right? We hold treifa einochayu. An animal that has a defect does not live more than 12 months. And a paraduma has to be 2 years old. So if it's in the second year of its life, so it's been established retroactively that this animal was born not defective, right? Factually. So if it's already born not a defective animal, so I have a chazokah that has no relevance to Rove. It's not because the majority animals are kosher animals, and therefore I have said the paradum is a kosher animal, it's because it's been established the animal is not a treifa, because it's in the second year of its life. That's Tos's question. Okay. If the animal is 2 years old, was it born a treifa or not a treifa? It's not a treifa. So, okay. Wait. We're learning from, the Gemara says, how do we know rov? You learn from Eglah Rufa. Otherwise, maybe a treifa. Must be rov, because the majority of animals are not treifa. Otherwise, you couldn't bring the Eglah Rufa. So Tosa says, how do you know? If you're of the opinion that a treifa does not live beyond a year, and this animal's 2 years old, so in retrospect, retroactively, you know this animal was born as a viable animal. Now the question is, did it become a treifa? It was born a treifa. Chazaka tells me it was a healthy animal when it was born. It's still a healthy animal. There's no reason to suspect it became a treifa, it became defective. That's Tosa's question. Okay? Of course, we say Ruvav Chazok, Ruvav Odif. Rov has a whole different power. Rov. No, the Gemara wants to bring a proof to Rov. The Gemara cites various sources. How do we know Chazokah? We establish Chazokah. Now how do we know Rov? So the Gemara cites Paraduma. So Tosis asks, what's the proof of Paraduma? No, because the basis is Chazokah. It has no relevance to Rov. That's Tosis' question. We're talking about Tosis Paraduma. Forget about the Rebbe. We're not learning Chulin. I'm learning Tosis now. Rov is majority. Chazokah is you establish a reality and we take it forward. That is nothing to do with Rov. Yeah. If they're pitted against one another, Rov would override it. 1 second. Yesh Lomar. I'll give you an example. How do you know? The Gemara says, how do we learn Rov? Maka of the Mosrumos. If a person injured causes a wound to his father or mother, it's punished by death. How do you know it's the mother? We know it's the mother. That's fact. How do you know it's the father? Right? So most of Robil is Acharabal. Because the majority of relations between a husband and wife is the husband. So therefore, Rov says he's the father. Therefore, you put the son to death if he should cause injury to the father, wound the father. Okay? But Paradum is not. Paradum is Chazokah. It's not Rov. So Tosa says, Miukan Yishom Dika Chazokah Acheres, Kenegdo Dami Tome El Cheskoso. The reason why it's not Chazokah, because the Tome, he has a Cheskes Tumah. Even though the animal has a Cheskes Einu Treifo, but the Tome has a Chazokah that what? That he's Tome. So let's pit one Chazokah against the other. So it must be because they have Rov. Avo, L'kamon Diyof made him Zom Kosher. Okay, Yishlomar. So that's it. He wants to say now, the reason why Rov comes into play because Chazok would not be sufficient. The Paraduma, because he has a Cheskes Tumah. Why do you follow the Chazok of the animal? Follow his Chazok. Avasov, is it treifa or not treifa? If it's treifa, he's not relieved of his Tumah, correct? So why do I follow the Chazok of the animal? Let's follow his Chazok. But if you have Rov supersedes over Chazokah, therefore the animal is established as a kosher animal. Yeah, it's definitely tumah. Was he relieved from it or not? It's determined whether the animal is not a treifa. So Chazokah says it's not a treifa. Well, what about him? Correct. So why do we purify him? But why do we establish the animal as not a treifa? The answer: I have a Rov. That's Tosa's answer. Rov animals are not defective. I'm not treifa. Okay, that's the reason. That's conflicted. It's not established. It's not established. It's at that moment. What is this? My question is: this paraduma, is it a treifa, and therefore it will relieve him of his contaminated status? So the answer is he has a chazokah, but he has a chazokah contrary to that. You have a suffix. Okay? So now he says his principle. Yeshloma de chazokah shlo nizbaro v'lo noda. Afil Sho'achas. Lo Azlin and Basra. If you have a chazokah, he's saying a whole different principle. This chazokah, there's no moment, it hasn't been verified or clarified, even for a moment, you don't go after the chazokah. Yeah. Kol chazokah shlo nizbaro, v'lo noda afil sha'achas. A chazokah means at one moment, I know it based on the moment. Now I know, meaning I have to start from a point of definiteness. I mentioned this a week ago. Right? A girl is born a virgin. A person's Torah. That's fact. So I know we have a point. Factually, it's this. Going forward. Right? So if I have a point, a fact, at this moment I can say it's definitely this. So then I take it forward. The animal, even though retrospect, it lived more than a year, so I know it wasn't a trait for the first year. Right? When it was born, I didn't know, and I never know. Even at this moment, I don't know. Because it may have become a trait. There's never a point ever where I know at the moment that it's not a trait. Yeah? Chazok is a Gzeres HaKosov. Chazok is a Gzeres HaKosov, correct? So we have to go after the model.
How do you know someone's born a virgin or someone is anomaly? There's always a
Every child is born a virgin. That's a fact. Every girl is born a virgin.
There are anomalies.
Doesn't mean, but that's a fact. You could actually you could examine. You examine every woman, she's a virgin. Okay, so that's fact. So once again, a person went to the mikveh, he's definitely Torah. That's fact. Now the question is, did he lose that pure status? So I establish fact, I go forward. From that point going forward, he became Tomei. Did he become Tomei? Did he not become Tomei? So Chazokah says he didn't become Tomei. Did not. Because it's a suffix. But there was a moment where factually he was that, because I knew at that moment he was what? At this moment, he was not Tomei. At this moment, she was a virgin. Okay? Rove, even if it lived the second year, at this moment, do I know at this moment it's not a treifa? I don't know at this moment. In retrospect, then, a year ago, it was not a treifa. But at any moment, did you ever know at that moment that it wasn't a treifa? You never knew. There was never a moment that you knew. Yeah, but that's not chazok. That's not the classification. That's not the chazok I'm drawing from the Gzeres HaKosov. The Gzeres HaKosov is, at this moment, this is factually this. If you establish fact at this moment, I can take it forward. No, because it's not. You're not established the chazok. I know now a year ago wasn't a treifa. But at this moment, it could be a treifa. It could be a treifa at this moment.
Same with the girl, right?
No.
Why? When animals born, we know factually.
No, we don't know factually. Maybe he was born a defective animal. That's Rove. Rove tells me that. That's not Chazokah. Rove tells me it's not. But Rove is not fact. Rove is not fact.
It seems like that Chazaka is based on Rove.
No, it has nothing to do with it.
Circular argument.
No, it's not circular.
But we're trying.
You know, what's circular?
Yeah, because what establishes a Chazaka?
You examine a girl. She's a virgin. Is that fact? You come out of the mikveh, you
don't
tore.
examine every girl. Every girl is not examined. So if you're saying that every girl, every animal,
every mother, when she cleans a child, when she diapers her, or cleans her, see she's a virgin. It's a fact. It's a fact. She's a virgin. Okay? At this moment, it's not a treifa. No, every moment you don't know. No, you still don't know. At this moment, it may be a treifa. It became a treifa. It can become a treifa every moment. No, but there was never a moment going at any moment from the moment it was born till today. There was never ever a time, a definitive moment at the moment that it was not a treifa. No, it may have become a treifa at this moment. No, but there was never. But chazok is. No, but again, you're not listening. Of course, again, because there's a Gzeres HaKosov. The Gzeres HaKosov is something is what it is now, and the question is, did it change? Was there ever a now in regard to the treifa? When it was born, I had no idea what it was. In retrospect, I see it was not a treifa. But at the moment, I never knew the moment that it was never a treifa. At that moment going forward. That's chazaka. At that moment. Every moment you have to be able to establish, there has to be a moment that you establish it at that moment. Okay? So that's not possible there. Therefore, you don't take it forward. So the paraduma, even the second year, there was never a moment. Therefore, I need Rov to tell me that the paraduma is not a treifa. Right? That's how we know it's not a treifa. So what is Tosfos' rule? Now he speaks about the case. He says, Yeshluma b'toch kach halocha l'maisa. From this we're able to draw the definitive halocha. Dim osu gvinos mikama beimos. They make cheese from the milk of a number of animals. V'achar kach nishchato achas. V'nitzah streifo. And then you slaughter one, you find it's a treifa. Shekul and asuras. The cheese. The cheese is here. Right? Are you permitted to eat the cheese? The ainli lahamit pora cheskoso. V'lo mahashto hu denitrofo. The cheese already has been in process aging for a number of months. Now I find, so I say, you know something? Let's say, what? It's not the mikveh case. Because it's based on this principle. Mikveh, factually, you measured the mikveh.
Not good.
No, that's for a different reason, because they have a 2 to 1. But let's say you went to the mikveh, you tore. Did I become tummy? I went in Rosh Hashanah. Did I go over a grave or did I not go over a grave? What's the halacha? You go after chazaka in Rosh Hashanah. That's cheskes. You have a cheskes tyra. You were definitely tore. Now a question: did that status change? Chazaka says it didn't change. Right. So if you could establish the kashrus of the animal to the same degree, the question is: when did it become defective? They'd say after it was milked. That's what I would say. But here, there's no such thing. I don't know when it became defective. Right? Because there was never a moment when I knew factually by the animals, by the milk, by the cheese. Did you ever have that moment factually you knew at that moment it was not a treifa? You never knew that moment.
When you made the cheese.
When you milked it originally, take it out of the cow.
Correct. You don't know it's treifa.
You don't know it's not treifa. You don't know it's not treifa. We need chazaka for that.
But why are we... So the chazaka is that it's a kosher animal. It is a kosher animal.
But that's not chazaka. Chazaka means you have to be able to establish at the moment factually it is what it is. How did you establish it? Rove establishes it. It's a rove. A rove doesn't establish fact. Right? It has to be established fact. With to take something forward. When did something change? When did the transition take place? That you have to establish the moment. You can't. Today it's straight. And it was milked 3 months ago. So that's a rover, and it's mittel rover. We're not getting into rove. We're talking about we don't have that. You don't have a rove.
If you milk the cow at 3 months old, and then it lives for another year and then another year, and then you find out.
No, that's part. That's understood. It's kosher.
That's kosher.
That's kosher.
Because
it lived past the year. So factually, I know it was kosher one.
Within the year.
We're talking about right.
It's within the year.
We're talking about within the year. Okay. Let's say it happened in the second year. No, let's say I milked it in the 11th month, and now I slaughter it in the second year.
And find it's not kosher.
Yeah, I find it's not kosher.
Right.
So from the time it was milked today, it's only 7 months. Right? But from the time it's born, it's more than a year.
Right.
Can't eat that cheese.
Cannot eat it?
No. Because it was milked at a time, it may have been a treifa.
I thought if it lived past the year, then you consider it kosher animal.
If I milked it, let's say I have cheese, and I milked it 3 years ago, and now the animal's alive. Of course you can eat the cheese.
Right.